Okay, hi everybody.
Okay, we're starting. Places we go when life is good. These are some nice emotions. Joy, happiness, calm, contentment, gratitude, foreboding joy, relief, and tranquility. Like, they're some of my favorite emotions. So let's get started. What do you think of when life is good? What emotion? What out of those really stood out for you?
Calm.
Calm is actually one of the emotions we're doing today, and we're both pretty good at that normally.
Usually.
Normally we are. So is that the one that stood out for you? Out of joy?
Because I can think of some stories around that.
Well, joy is one of my favourite emotions.
Yeah, I know.
But I do think that is something that people fear a lot.
Joy, yeah.
Yeah. And they don't want to, because you can lose joy.
So maybe that's the foreboding joy.
Yeah, I think that's that when she's talking about that is it takes courage to have joy. So we'll get started today by what is your story, then how do you feel when you feel good? Is calm, we say that feels like, is that when you feel good?
Well, it's one of the times, absolutely. And I think that I feel good with that word, that association, because it's the calmness of accepting myself is what I'm thinking when I hear word calm. That it's sort of like, the calm when there's a whole lot of, what's the word, there's a whole lot of stuff going on around you, but you can stay calm and feel calm. But I think very much so in this series, this podcast series, that calmness is around the self-acceptance. That calmness is around feeling okay about myself. That calmness is around, doesn't matter what other people think of me, because I can, and think back to, for those of you who have heard our episode on the connection and belonging, if I use another word that's been quite a special word of late, is serenity, feeling quite serene. And that serenity, that calmness, that serenity is balance. It's that feeling centered. It's that when things that would have in the past really affected me or hurt me or made me doubt myself. That's been a lot of the conversation too in these podcast episodes. They don't now. And it's like it's an anchor. Like you and I talk a lot about anchors.
Is key, yeah.
And that, and that leadership space, how important it is to know what anchors you. And calm, that's why that word resonated for me straight away, is because that to me is an anchor.
Oh, 100%. And if you, during leadership roles, there is going to be moments. 100%. In leadership roles, written my turn. In leadership roles, I think calm is key in terms of actually when there's going to be storms. And when even, I know in Toastmasters, when things go wrong, just when you're running an event, if you freak out and you can't be calm when that storm is happening, you're normally useless. And I don't really think you can lead. All you're doing is actually, if you as a leader freak out, it's contagious. Well, it's like calm's contagious, but so is freak out.
You're going to add to the storm, aren't you, just make it worse.
Yeah. So that's why that is so key as a leader, I think, to be able to anchor and say, how do I stay calm in a storm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't believe we can control the storms. The storms are something that's just going to keep coming, but we can control how we react to the storm. And calm for me, I don't know if that for me, because of that, it's like, is it something I feel when I feel good? No. It's something I feel is important to do when there's a storm. It's not something being calm, maybe because that doesn't really give me joy to be calm.
Yeah. So it does for me.
Yeah, for me, like when you said serenity, I was like, I need more excitement to feel joy.
Yeah.
Like being serene and being tranquil, I'm like,
oh, take that.
She's a bit boring.
Take that tone of voice.
No. Yeah, for me personally, it's like, does that give me joy? When I'm dancing and listening to music, that's like probably fills me with joy more than anything. When I'm running and I'm seeing the dog bounce, that gives me joy more than anything else in the world.
But that's joy. So your word's joy. So
but it's what do I feel when I feel good?
Yes.
Was the question. Places I go when I feel good, and I feel calm helps me feel good when there's a storm. But it's not somewhere I go when I feel good. I actually use it to stop me when there's a storm on. It's something that I would use to send to myself. And when I think of calm, that's what I think of. Breathe, box breathing, calm yourself down because there's a storm going on.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have put it in that same, it comes when I feel good, it comes when I'm feeling I'm in a storm.
Yeah. So I'm
the tool, which is a different way of looking at it, really.
And I'm looking at it as that calmness is I feel good.
When you're in that state, Yeah, which is
So it's
interesting
not
perspective.
not becoming calm, it's calmness, which is why I use that word serenity. That's where I feel good, because actually everything is in balance.
And I think that contentment is when you said serenity, I was like, oh, that is for me, it's like, I'm content. Everything is good in the word.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the other words that she said was tranquil.
Yes.
And that is, for me, it's like, that is a nice word. When things are tranquil, which really you would say is the same as calm.
Well, you'd think, wouldn't you? What did you say?
I'm trying to look, because that's calm is an intention.
Right.
So I define calm as creating perspective and mindfulness while managing your emotional reactivity.
Yeah. So that's my bit about the self-acceptance and the calmness around that. If people, don't like me or don't accept me or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I have that calmness in me that's like that. I'm managing my emotional reaction to that and staying in this place. It's like, yeah, I'm still fine. I'm okay.
So I'm calm no matter what's going on.
So I'm managing that emotional reactivity now.
Yeah. I'm going to read, because exactly, I love this. Tranquility may be my new favorite emotion. Why? The definition of tranquility is associated with the absence of demand, and there's no pressure to do anything, which for me is very different to calm. Because when I'm calm, I'm controlling emotions. I should probably be calm all the time if I was a calm stated person, but I don't think I am. I'm a high energy person, so I'm not always calm. But that tranquility is like, that's joy to me. That feels so lovely when I don't have anyone asking me stuff.
Yes, I don't, well, for me, it's a little bit different.
So I think, but I think that's what's so cool about this is we all feel things, and understanding, we feel them, and those words mean completely different things to us. Like even, I'm sure Brene has been doing all the studying on this, and that's her feeling of it. Definition. What's the difference of contentment? And as she's asked all these people, when she's saying, I think a lot of people is, I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, if we're saying when I feel good, is it impossible? I feel sometimes people are going, I think I read a book years and years ago called The Happiness Trap.
Oh, yeah.
So we spend all this time working out, like, I want to be happy. Why am I not happy? They're happy. I'm not happy. What's going to make me happy? Well, life isn't always happy. Even if we didn't have those moments of grief and loss, you wouldn't have the gratitude. From that grief and loss, we've made new connections, had new stories. I have found the obstacles have always made me stronger. Have the moments of joy made me stronger, have those good moments. They felt lovely, but they've definitely not amplified the results as much as pain has, to be honest. Maybe I've not paid attention as much.
Yeah.
But they've not been as powerful in changing my life because I felt joy from someone.
Yeah. See, whereas for me, feeling calm now in that context that I put it in is a big change in my life. So I feel good because I achieved that now, which I haven't in the past.
Cool. And what I just suddenly thought of, thriving in chaos is my superpower. Chaos makes me calm. I'm totally happy in creative chaos.
Right.
That's my job. I don't know what I'm doing all the time. I'm pretty cool and calm about that. And that is like a different perspective. And for me to understand that, I didn't realize how uncomfortable it made people feel to be in chaos. Whereas honestly, for me, it's like when we've been renovating, my husband made a statement, this has been the hardest year of my life. Really, for him, you can see it's been such an anxious year. For me, looking back over all the renovating, the change, the moving, it's been pretty fun. Most of the time, I don't know what's going on. I'm juggling, I'm jumping from project to project. That actually probably fills me with joy. Seeing things finished, creating stuff, whereas he just wants to see it finished. The creation and unknown makes him feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Whereas the creation unknown, when I was making my Lego at Christmas, he said to me, you don't care when you finish that, do you? You don't care about it being finished. And if it never got finished, you'd be happy. And I was like, yeah, it's not, because he was like, are you finished yet? There's Lego everywhere. Like, when are we going to tidy this mess up? Like, how long are you doing Lego for? And then he suddenly clicked that, like, you're not the same as me because I want this finished. And it was interesting. It was like when my daughter was doing Lego when we were younger, she'd finished it and we weren't allowed to play with them. Yeah, it was perfect and we just put it on the shelf. And I thought, that's why I stopped playing with Lego. Because
Stop being fun.
it stopped being fun. For me, when we made it when we were kids, I remember getting the fireman fire thing. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
I was younger. You got that fire. The fire station was huge when it came out. I was like, wow. I built it. That lasted a week. And then we smashed it. We were building trucks. I had Lego. I would say from my daughter's perspective, we weren't allowed to break a thing off it. And I would say probably my husband would have that, well, we completed it now. Why would we ever do it again? Why would we go through that chaos again of not knowing what was going to come out of that box of Lego? Whereas that was actually the joy moment for me, not the completion. So it is really understanding, especially as a leader. And when we're mentoring, like when you were challenging us the other day with reflection to look back, it was almost like you've got to be aware that because of my technique's not going to work the same for every human I get. And how I feel isn't how you feel.
Yeah.
And that's a first step, I think, in any leadership position and any successful relationship is knowing the first step is my brain. It's not the same as your brain. And I'm curious to find out, like, I'm actually curious from this straight away. It's like, cool, because we've both got a really different definition of calm.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool because now we've got two definitions of calm and realize that people feel this in different ways.
Yeah, I'm just thinking too that, there's some work I'm going to do soon with in that change management space. And it's the whole idea is about, leaders helping their staff members, their teams, to manage quite massive change, in this whole digital age that we're in. And, I think all of these emotions in terms of where to go, place to go, we feel good. I think they're sometimes, like, I'm thinking about that context. It's like they're reminders that we need to hang. They're all anchors in a sense, so that if and that we're able to help others work out what it is that's their place when they feel good, if that makes sense. So, if it's calm, if it's joy, if it's gratitude, if it's tranquility, whatever it is. If you're helping someone, I'm thinking about helping someone experience and transition through massive change. One, I have to have that balance, that centeredness to help with that process and help them through that process because I can do that myself. And when we're experiencing change, that like we talked about in the other episode, about the grief and anguish and those things, we can use those. It's sort of like the opposite. It's like, we need to have these things, these emotions, and we need to use them. And we need to, like you're saying, we need to understand and know what works for us and what makes us, what's that place that feels good. Because there will always be, as you're saying too, those times when things aren't so good. And change can be really traumatic for a lot of people. And so I need to be able to be balanced and centered to help people through it. And I also need to know how to help them find that place where they feel good when things don't feel good. And I think that that's a really important point, is that things will not always feel good. So when is it? Where can we go? Even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or a day out of a week or whatever it is, whatever time frame, we can feel good. But we need to know that, and that's why I think that question's so good. It's like we need to identify and know and really, really understand where that place is, where we feel good, because that's the anchor that helps us, just anything else.
I think that was the question when I really did break over having my studio, and I was thinking, what have I done? What have I built in my life? I'm not sure where I'm on. So I'm moment of breaking. And someone did ask me that, like, what brings you joy? And I was like, no effing idea. I thought it was my job, but this is now the thing I hate. So what the hell is going on? Because my whole life I thought that I was so lucky to do a job that brought me joy.
Yeah.
But in reality now I'm here managing humans. I've got myself where I'd actually ignored every other part and thought I'll just put all my energy in this is the only part of my life I control. And it had just become something that was taking all my energy, not giving me energy anymore. But I'd lost what gave me joy. And it takes time. I was like, okay, that's all I can do. And sometimes I think one of my, I was mentoring someone and they now have actually lost a lot of pain in their shoulder. And they wanted to do things that brought them joy, but all the things that brought them joy, they couldn't do. They had no shoulder anymore. So every week they're telling me what they can't do.
Yeah.
So like the joy, my challenge in the end was like, sometimes I'm not nice, was, okay, I've cut your arm off. Can you go and find out what people with no arms do? Come back next week. Don't tell me what you did. I want to find out, how do people get joy when they got no arms? Because you keep looking at the same things. Sometimes we do that. I think sometimes too, we look for people to give us joy.
Oh, yeah.
I know when I am, you're looking, wanting these people who, like we're saying, we want them to like us, want to fit in. And so you're looking like, why aren't you giving me a clap? And if we turned our head that tiny moment, there's people there who's cheering you on, people who love you so much, but instead of focusing on them and going, thank you so much, isn't this cool, my light shining, you keep focusing on the people who are blowing your light out.
Well, because it's usually so much more powerful.
Yeah, negative
sometimes.
emotions.
Yeah.
Are human.
Because people who are negative are very, very strong at being negative.
Yeah, and our brain we will avoid 2 times loss over win.
Yeah.
So that's natural because we don't want to die. So we have basically genetically being survival is if it's risk, if it's even 1-to-1, we're not going to take a risk to hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
But we're always worried. So we're always really feeling what is going to risk? What's the risk? What's the risk of this? So we're not looking what's actually happy and joyful. We're looking normally as where am I danger? Where's my danger? Where are the things? And because of that, our filter is actually letting in stuff that brings us pain, which is unfortunate. Instead of looking, like we said, knowing what brings you joy, once you open the filter, once you open the filter for gratitude, you're like, first of all, you're like, I'm not grateful for anything. But then you start realizing, actually, I am grateful for this. I am grateful for this. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful for real stuff, actually. I'm grateful you called me. I'm grateful for that message. Little things you can be grateful for, but it's a practice.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely all of these things. And you think it would be so cool and easy to be happy, content. Like, why would we have to practice any joy? One would think that's a weird thing to practice.
Yeah.
But it definitely is something because most people have no idea when I ask them.
Yeah. I think it's in addition to that, it's that we don't always, but like what you're saying, we don't think about it.
People don't pay attention to it.
And we don't think about it because, if things are going well, we take it for granted. It's like, okay, it's when things don't go so well, then it's like, oh, and most of us don't think when things start going wrong or whatever, we don't start saying, oh, so where's the place I go to feel good again? We just get enveloped.
We just go to the place where it's making us feel bad.
Yeah, well, that's what we can experience.
We're looking, who can I blame for this? Where's the judgment for this? Oh, this must be someone else's fault. Or what's... So COVID happened. Yeah. All these things that we are blaming instead of we don't go, what can I do to give me a tiny bit of dopamine?
Yeah. Yeah. So it needs to be a habit. It needs to be, I don't think we get taught that either.
No.
It's just like, hey, life will happen. And when life happens, then you'll find out how you can respond to it, react to it and cope with it. So I don't want to cope. I don't want to just cope. I want to get through it feeling okay while I'm getting through it and good when I'm at the other end. Yeah. And that's why, again, I say, I think that question, like, the place you go and feel good, I think that needs to be part of our psyche. It needs to be part of our reflection constantly. Not just what do I do well or what are my strengths, because that's a common one. What are my strengths? What am I able to do? What skills do I have? What can I build? What can I develop to be better or whatever? But actually, this is the life stuff that balances all of that out or needs to be part of that whole picture is but how do I look after myself? Because I think thinking about places where I feel good is about looking after myself, looking after my emotions, looking after my health, looking after all of those things, how I get through each day. Like you said, just those little sort of drips or whatever of dopamine, the little sort of nudges of those, that needs to be part of our daily routine. I don't know if that's making sense, but that's,
It's tiny things for joy.
Yeah.
I think it's tiny. It's like little things build joy. Little things, the gratitude, it seems like that tiny little thing, like having a 5-minute breathe in the day, that tiny little thing of being grateful, you're like, how could that balance this? it doesn't make sense. The pain, it doesn't make sense that would actually make that better. But actually it's the habitual behavior of it is actually being aware of what they are. Because a lot of us we don't even get any of them.
No.
I think one of my, when we had our clubhouse moment and we were meeting people and that dopamine hit, and I realized when you do say someone's name, it gives them dopamine. So it is key. I'm terrible with names. And I'd be like, oh, sorry, I'm terrible with names. But now I've realized if I can say, Lesley, you really made me feel good when you did that. As a leader in a leadership position, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And when you're mentoring in a group, being able to say to that person, hey, I recognize you. I know your name. It's the first thing they realize. It's the first thing they realize and recognize in their life, and it does give you joy.
I'm laughing because Lisa just told me a story before, but actually forgot that.
It is something I'm always working on, but it is actually because I've realized the importance of to other people, the joy it gives them. Yeah. Because I'm like, why do you care? But they do care because in our brain, it's the first thing we learn to recognize. Yeah. We can hear it across a 10-meter room. It's amazing. It's such a powerful thing. So,
and I think too, what you're saying about I can't remember the language you're using, but it's like up here and down here, and those things we do, to me, they're the calmness things too. The breathing. So you take breathing, to me, that's calming. So it's a different perspective or concept of what I was thinking when I was first talking about what calm means to me. But there is that aspect of it too, that calm is that you do take that time to stop, or you do take that time to reflect. And I think that whoever we are, whatever we do, and if we have our own business or we're leaders or we're in a team of people, that balance all the time. I use that word a lot, but I think achieving that balance is just so important, so useful. And it may just be those small things that do that. And I come back to that word calm. Like I love the word joy too. I come back to that word calm. Like how do you keep that balance? How do you keep going? Because you have taken that time to stop, to think about something, to actually not think about something for 5 minutes.
Oh, that's
and I just think that's so
peace in your brain.
Yeah.
To not think. And it sounds really, one of the most important things when I'm mentoring is teaching people to do grounding and to take that moment. And it seems, again, like what difference is that going to make in my life? If I stop and breathe for 2 minutes, like honestly, no, I will just be 2 minutes behind all my other tasks. That's sort of how you think when you're in that state. But it's game changing. Being able to stop, I would say, for any techies out there, it's like restarting a computer. Yeah. Or if my mum comes and says, oh, my phone's not working, I'm like, have you turned it off? Because it's our brain is just holding as much information as we can, and it just can't feel calm when every single tab is still open.
Yeah. That recharge, isn't it?
It's that. And it takes a second, like I've said, my tea meditation, just the time to boil a kettle and listen to that sound. Game changer. Which when I'm teaching leaders and I'm saying, oh, by the way, just pay attention to making your tea. It sounds like, are you a nutcase? But it actually is the key things to make a difference to your day. And it's the only thing that you can control right now.
And I think like all of the conversations we've been having so far, what that it comes down to all the time is that it's about you as that person, you as that leader, that self-leadership, all of those things. That is always the first part that you need to focus on before you can ever say, oh, and also I'm responsible for a team and I help my team do this, that, the other, or we work together, that we achieve together. That there is always that first step is that, well, who am I as a leader? Who am I as a person? Whether it's places we go to feel good or whether it's whatever that might be, those emotions. It's being aware that we need to be aware. That self-awareness is just so critical before we can ever say validly that we can help others to achieve, meet their goals, feel better, build their confidence, whatever it is that we're there to, to help them with, be that in a mentoring relationship or in a leader, a team environment. It's got to start with the person.
I think it's that, like when you're on the plane, you have to put your own mask on first. Yeah. You can't help anyone unless you have your own mask on first. And I've seen that especially when mothers have been helping, we've been in groups with neurodiverse people. I'm like, you have to work on self before you can help your child. Because if you're reacting to everything they're doing, you're not going to be able to help them because you can't actually objectively look at this.
Yeah.
So I think that is in leadership again is finding that calm to be able to reflect, finding that calm in self to be able to lead.
Yeah.
Finding that calm so you don't spread anxiety all over the firm.
Yeah. That you do manage the crises, that you do find.
To be able to be vulnerable, to say, hey, this is where I don't even know what I'm doing right now, but I can say that in a calm way and say, hey, team, I am with you all the way.
Let's work on this.
Let's
together.
get this. We are going to solve the problem. But right now, I don't have all the answers, but I'm calm that I know we can deal with it. So it's like, I don't know what's going on, everybody. Let's start acting. Go back. You know, it's like if you imagine that plane situation, if we all did panic, it'd be useless.
Yeah.
So we do need, as a leader, to really make sure that we're working on that. And I think as a team, like if you're thinking of being grateful for people, like me saying, I'm really so grateful that you appreciate me when we work together. I'm grateful for your calls. I'm grateful when you did that. And I think with our partners, because it's like we said, they're not mind readers. So I think as well, if you want to train your partners too, my friend, like when they do things that you like, it's almost Pavlov's experiment. It's like, oh, I'm really grateful you made me that cup of tea this morning. That really made me happy when you did this. That gave me joy when you did this.
I love it when you do, blah, blah.
That shows people, because most people don't actually know when you're feeling the joy.
You know, it's interesting just thinking about that the easiest, most simple way to make someone, and I'm thinking in that team leadership environment, easiest thing that can make people feel good is to say thank you. And it seems to be the hardest thing for so many leaders and managers to say. I'm thinking back to when I was in full-time employment, and I can probably count on one hand how many times someone said thank you for the work you've done. It was sort of like this expectation that, well, we're giving you a salary and this is the job role and here's the job position, that description that you accepted the job for. So of course you're going to do that. And I thought, just saying thank you, I don't want the thank you, you're an amazing person, and oh my gosh, you've done this and you've done that, and so, but just saying, hey, thank you would be so, for me, would have been so nice. And I hear a lot of people say that it's like, that's so nice to be acknowledged, and it's 2 words.
I think the acknowledgement also, as someone who's worked in teams, like creative teams, and you might, we're all putting into the project, but very often there's a leader who's getting all the claps, all the accolades, or even the client. You never even sometimes see the stuff, right? The client's like, I'm wonderful. And you're like, to be able to send, like I've had beautiful things to send to me from clients to say, this happened because of you. You were part of the team on this, the whole team. And I think that's what is key as a leader, is saying, this was all of us.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't, like you said, you can't do any of it without the team. So no one is less than anybody else because, like, we don't have the janitor, we can't do this. We don't have the person who's a doorman, we can't do this. We don't have the person who just goes through and does the tiniest job. It doesn't complete the circle. So everyone, and it's acknowledging that, I think, is key. Whether you're thanking, it's not like to say, thank you, well done. It's just to acknowledge you're part of the team. Maybe it's that connection.
I think
acknowledging that it was valuable. And you're part of something.
I think as we could say there's a cultural thing to that too.
Yeah, that's true.
As well, because I'm thinking of, different cultures who I work with who, they don't have to say thank you, because it is used, perhaps because it's used in a different context to what actually it's intended for. But yeah, like what you're saying, I just think it's something that is communicating that you've noticed. It's communicating that you actually do really acknowledge and recognize, as you've said, that everybody has the contribution to make. And it's not waiting until they've had some major success to say, oh, and thank you very much for contributing to that. It's that actually every day we're doing this. And I'm really thankful that you come to work every day and you want to be here. And, excuse me. And I just don't think it's hard. But for some people, it just seems to be really hard.
When you said that, I was like, oh, I obviously do run a team. And so I know as a leader, you're sometimes, well, I'm not even say sometimes, I wouldn't think of myself as a leader, but you're a business owner and you're just thinking of all the things. And so we're so much in the future. When you said that, it's like, why don't we do it? It's because we're already on to the next lot of jobs. I'm already thinking of the stuff that's got to be done tomorrow. So the stuff my team did today, I am grateful, but fuck that, I'm on tomorrow's jobs and I'm giving you those. Because I've got time to be grateful, which is really sad. Yeah. And I also think we make lists. I notice a lot. I mean, whenever I'm teaching, I teach myself, but I try now to say when, especially my in-house team, we did good today. Like we haven't got everything done because the list is this bloody long. We never will have, it will be 80% if we're lucky at some point. But you know what? We did 5 things today that were great. Yeah. And we'll start this morning and say, what are the things that are most important we have to do today? And if we can do those 3 things, or we can do that one thing, we had a great day. And at the end of the day, I think that especially with goals as well, I used to be like that. It was like, my list is very long. So I never feel I've completed the list. Yeah. So when I brought it back to one goal,
much more achievable.
Basically, at the end of the day, I mean, I realized in the end, I can't just celebrate doing one task today. It should actually be a goal. It should be a useful task. It wasn't like, oh, well done, you cleaned your teeth. Yeah. Let's have a party. As a task, it was more like, what is taking me a step forward in my goal? And I now, when I am paying attention, would have 3 of those for the week because I found that's achievable for me because I don't want to disappoint myself and let myself down anymore. Whereas before, when I put forward those points, there was no accountability to self. But also, it was humanly impossible. We'd start the day, oh, well, we should build a website today. And, oh, by the way, I'm building a course as well. And, oh, they need all that done. Humanly impossible in time. So you set yourself up for failure and for feeling crap, feeling worthless, not feeling good, instead of saying, actually, well, if we do the copy for that one page today, we're celebrating a win tonight.
And you set everybody else up to feel crap and a failure too, your team.
Yeah, your team. It's set up. Whereas if we actually say, what can we, I know, actually, I loved it when I saw Brene talking about her team, because she goes in a bit like I do. Yeah, we'll have that happening in 6 weeks, thanks. And the team will actually say back, that's going to take 6 months, which in reality, it takes time. But we all want it done, like our customers want it now. We want change now. It doesn't happen.
You want to feel good straight away.
And that's a human nature.
Yeah.
But actually having a team that then can say, okay, let's be realistic about this. Because I did think people set themselves up. I know I do weekly goals with a group, and it's like, you're not going to achieve that this week. Impossible unless you are Superman. So basically you're failing.
Yeah.
And I think that fail, like my first goal when I was saying I was broken was like, you need to drink water today. That was the only thing I had to do. You need to ground every day. You need to have a smoothie every day this week. Well done. You actually did
what you
said you would do. Whereas before, if I said, oh yeah, I'm going to look after myself, day 2, no, I'm not. I'll just look after everybody else because that's what I do. Forget me. I'm not important. I don't have time for me. I'm not going to do what I say. Even though if I said to you I was going to give you a smoothie every day, I'm showing up for that. But why am I not showing up for me?
And I think that's what this is about. Again, it comes back to that, is that you're not thinking about that place where you feel good because you don't feel good because you're not thinking about it.
That's all it is.
Yeah. And you need to remind yourself those things.
Yeah. You don't think what gives me joy. You don't think why
calmness is important.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
And also saying that, understanding this conversation has really taught me. It's like what I would have thought of calm's the same for everyone.
Right.
Joy is the same for everyone. But it's so different for everyone because really, like I said, chaos doesn't bother me. So calm isn't an emotion I want.
Chaos.
For you, obviously, anxious was like calm was a very important thing for you. Yeah. Whereas anxiety isn't really something I've ever suffered with until, later in my life when I realized, well, this is not normal for me.
Yeah.
But it's not been something because I've been in a job where I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm always in a state of chaos, which I find quite fun.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so that is cool that you like actually being aware, because when you're actually teaching, like transitioning through change, there's people in the group who are going to love that.
Yep.
What value can they add? And also, how can we look after the people who are just in
not coping.
And mostly those people don't speak.
Yeah.
They'll, like we were saying in other things, where they're hiding away, they're basically feel lonely even though they're in a... And I think the worst loneliness is when you're in a group of humans and you still feel lonely.
And you still feel...
That's the worst. It's not when you're on your
found
own.
a place that's good either.
What, that gives me joy?
No. And adding to that, it's because I interrupted you, and you haven't found your place that's good. Just
you don't belong.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like we said after that episode, it's like, you're not going to belong everywhere in the world, and that's okay too. You're not going to have every single job where it's, brilliant.
Yeah. This is good.
It's part of your journey, but you can actually be calm. You can actually still have joy every day. You can still have gratitude every day.
And tranquility.
You might, there's lots of people. Yeah, if you did lose both your arms, you're not going to get them back. But you actually still can have all these things. So it's actually, but it is an awareness. And I think, again, when we're a kid, we just find joy in playing and normal things. But also we're often told, well, come on, be serious now. You're a grown-up.
Yeah.
Come on, you need to get a job now. Yeah. You can't keep playing and doing fun stuff all day, Lisa. Get a job. Yeah. Do real stuff now.
I think, too, that they just listen to what you're saying there. They can just be words. Like, that's why I think this conversation is so important and so useful and so interesting too, is that they're not just words. And this is where, Brene Brown's work comes in, obviously, that they're not just words. It's like, when I do this, I get joy, or like I feel calm in this particular situation. That they are actually lessons, and they are reminders to ourselves that there are all sorts of things that we need to have in place, put in place, and keep doing to actually get through and enjoy and have it, every day. And to feel that we're contributing, to feel that we have worth and value, whether it's to ourselves or to other people. That it's not just I'm happy. So what about being happy? What's the significance of that in whatever context that is?
I think also I see often, obviously, when I'm helping people achieve their goals, they're like, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I climb the mountain. And it's like, well, if you don't know what makes you happy on every step of that journey, or if you're not paying attention to what gives you joy on that journey, or what actually filled your cup on that journey, pretty much guarantee you're not going to be happy when you get there. So I think that's a lesson that we spend a lot of time thinking, when I have this job, I'd be happy. And we just put our head down, if I had a business that was thriving, I'd be happy. When I get thin, I'll be happy.
When I win lotto, I'd be really happy.
I've never thought about that. But I did think that getting thin would make you happy.
Some people live like that.
Oh, I know.
They're like, I've got to win lotto before my life's any good.
I would really, that to me is such high risk. Such high risk, because I'll be like, how do I win lotto? I can't control that.
Yeah. Well,
I would have to have something that actually I can control for me. But I honestly, I know that. I've seen that. Lotto would make me happy.
But that's your goal setting too, is that what you have control over. You don't have control over getting to the top of the mountain. What you have control over are the steps you're going to take to get there.
100%.
So people don't necessarily always get that. And we can talk about having realistic goals, which is quite right. But it's I love that analogy you use about, the mountain and being happy at the steps you're taking and experiencing happiness as you make your way towards that, not waiting for this emotion to happen sometime down the track if you get there.
Yeah. And I think I remember when we were talking about that mountain and we were talking about paying attention. For me, it's okay to get halfway up the mountain and realize you're climbing the wrong mountain. And that only happens if you actually look around, because sometimes I've seen people in businesses, they're so unhappy.
Yeah.
And they keep going because they're like, I have to prove to everybody. And they're scared to say, actually, this was a crap idea. Now I've seen this, I'm actually going to give it up. And
that's I think a lot of people.
Oh, well, you've got to say I was wrong. I told you I was big hoo-ha and I was going to get to the top of the mountain, but now I'm telling you, actually, I'm not. Yeah. And I've changed my mind. And I actually think as well, it was quite nice for me to hear Marie Foley talk. She was talking about, and she was saying, like, obviously she's neurodiverse with ADD. She's done a lot of jobs. She's changed position. She's done lots of things. Which is like me, we do lots of different things. So there isn't a right way, because someone will say, well, that's no good. You can't keep changing your mind, You got to keep going on that path. And no changing mind allowed.
Yeah. If you've got 16 jobs on your CV, people goes like, what was
wrong with you? Why did you? Yeah. I was actually exploring what I like to do.
Your job, yeah.
But that's actually not how it works for some people. we were learning on every job. And you know what? We're fabulous because of doing 16 jobs. But for some, like when you were saying, some people, that wouldn't have been healthy.
No.
They've done that for different reasons.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually the reason. It's as a leader also being aware of making that judgment. Yeah. Like making a judge, because some people don't do things the same as you. Doesn't mean they're wrong.
No.
And some, like we're saying, the joy, like what I love going to cities, they fill my cup. And I actually will light up, like my husband's seen me. Like, I think I remember me and my mum going to the city, and where I live is, the country. And I'm not a country mouse. And there's people crossing the road in suits. And my mum was like, oh, doesn't it feel good to see people crossing the roads in business suits? Because we're from London. We see that was like, that's life. It's alive. Whereas when you're in the country, you don't see that.
No.
But if I brought my husband into the city with me, for him to have that business, that does not bring him joy. So for us, I would say we actually feel recharged after a 2-day immersion of loads of people. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm recharged. Yeah. Whereas I definitely know people after 2 days of full immersion, they're like, get me out of here, depleted, zero energy. Neither's wrong.
No.
And that is even today, like I was saying, you feel calm in a different way to me. We both experience calm, but it's pretty cool that we can experience in different ways. Yep. But as a leader, you've got to be able to be curious. If you think everyone thinks the same as you, you're not going to have a very cool team.
No, and it's not going to be very successful. Yeah.
No, I think that's what we find. So good. Last step for today. I think we did well. We're getting better at this, I think.
We didn't laugh quite so much this time.
We're on it. Okay, this is about foreboding joy, and why I think that is the last statement. When we lose our tolerance for vulnerability, joy becomes foreboding. No emotion is more frightening than joy, because we believe if we allow ourselves to feel joy, we're inviting disaster. We start dress rehearsing tragedy in the best moments of our life in order to stop vulnerability from beating us to the punch. So we're terrified of being blindsided by pain. So we practice strategy and trauma, but there's a huge cost. When we push away joy, we squander the goodness we need to build resilience, strength, and courage. And I think that even both of us, with the grief and the different things we've experienced recently, one thing I would definitely say is I would never not have experienced that joy, so I didn't feel the pain of loss. Yeah. And I think people do stop themselves experience joy, because what if it gets taken away from them?
Yeah, or they have that, what I was thinking too when you were reading that out, is they say, well, actually, I'm really happy now, but I bet you I won't be tomorrow, or I know down the track I won't be. So it might not be that they stop themselves from being happy, but there's always a disclaimer. There's always the disclaimer, yeah, but it can't last, And so actually, they're not actually really all that happy.
No.
It's just so sad.
I know it's sad. Well, it makes me laugh when they have taken people, I'm going, most tripped out thing about neuroscience. And I think, thinking David Liederman, is it Thinking Small? I will actually put that in the comments, but I'll put a tag to this where he talks about going on holiday, and also then people moving to Florida to I'm going to be happy when I move to Florida. What is actually pretty tripped out about our brain is, they've proven there is no correlation between weather and feeling happy. There's no correlation really between money and feeling happy. But what the tripped out thing is about our brain is, because when we're getting there and we look around and then we're thinking, oh, I'm not sure. But then they're like, oh, but I've got hot weather, so I must be happier. We convinced ourselves we're happier. But there is definitely not because of that. Again, by looking at you, well, they still live in New York and they're cold, because obviously it's a New York video, American video. Oh, I must be happier because I've got sunshine. But it's all a trick, because it's all a perspective as the way we look at it. Yeah. But it's funny how our brain can play such silly games on us. Yeah. So I think that's cool. Yeah. I hope everyone pays attention to what brings them joy, because it's one of the most important things to me.
And find your place where you feel good, wherever that is and whatever that is, and that you use that as your anchor, that when things aren't going so well, or things are getting a little bit messy around you or whatever, that you've got a place to go, even if it's for a brief period of time, where you'll feel good. But you've got to actually identify what that is, and you've got to do it, not to say, oh, I'll feel better or happy when, all of this is out of the way, or when this is finished, or when this is over. I used to do that.
Oh,
I'd be like, oh gosh, I'm going to feel so much better when I've done this workshop, because it's going to be lots of hard work and I might not do it that well, but hopefully it'll go well. But I know at the end of it, like, oh, phew, rather than, which stopped me from enjoying the time, the moment of doing it. So I've certainly changed that.
With our children, sometimes we really do that too. And we miss the moment of enjoying the process, because what we're doing is waiting for when they win the award, or they do the thing, or they get the thing, or, when they're there. And it's like,
enjoy now. Yeah.
And you realise as we go through life, I think as we get older, life changes very quickly.
Oh, yes.
And some people don't have that gift of long life. I've seen people, like, things change that quickly. And that's when you realise it is important to work out each day, because that's actually all you got.
Yeah.
There's no future. There's no tomorrow. There's no yesterday. It's now.
Yeah.
So how can you feel calm now? How can you feel joy? And please go explore that. But I would say it is really hard to find that when you are in a state of crazy. It's not, yes, it's a time you can start practicing, but it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you start practicing this when you're happy, and I think that always makes me laugh, people say you should see a psychologist when you actually feel good.
Yeah.
Which no one ever does. We only go when we're broken. But if you went when you're feeling good, you'd have way more chance of actually being a healthy person.
You're so much more receptive to understanding and knowing and saying.
And when that pain comes, you're like, oh, yes, that's happening. I know what to do. I have a tool in my backpack, which we hope we are actually giving you here now. So,
yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Always be curious. Always be kind, care. And thank you so much for this gift of conversation. So we'll see you next one.